Support WrestleTalk!
Thank you for your support on Patreon. El Seguente, top model de Gran Bretaña, Phil Stopford. Is Lio Rush done on WWE Raw? Shane McMahon agrees to his latest crazy match. And today's word of the day is sociopath. And how worried is WWE about All Elite Wrestling? Click the timestamps in the video description below to go straight to any of those stories. I'm Ollie Davis. Give us a subscribe, press the thumbs up button, and answer our question of the day in the comments. Who should win the men's Money in the Bank match out of the participants announced on this show? Because I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere. And click the eye above my head to give your rating, where you can choose from Rawsome, Core, Average, Poor, and Rawful, as I review the 29th of April 2019 edition of Monday Night Raw. Alexa Bliss's A Moment of Bliss segment opened the show, a segment yet to have a good installment to reveal the Raw participants in the men's Money in the Bank match. Just before we get into those though, Alexa, are you a heel or a face at the moment?
The cake is not a lie. It is delicious and moist. You can have some when you finish asking
You're a baby face here. I don't know what you're trying to say. Anyway, the men's Money in the Bank Raw participants are Braun Strowman, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, and Baron Corbin. Because not even the Money in the Bank ladder match is safe from the pull of Baron Corbin's mid-card vortex. Ricochet is a great choice, as he's perfectly suited to those sorts of high spots. But Strowman and Corbin, who've both won it before, and McIntyre aren't exciting choices. Especially when you've got a revamped Robert Roode moustache sitting right there. This turned into McIntyre and Corbin versus Strowman and Ricochet, presumably because Finn Balor is on SmackDown now. But at least it means Corbin's not in the main event this week. You gotta take those wins where you can. Ricochet was worked over for the majority of the match until Braun got the hot tag and Corbin blind tagged himself in despite Drew having the win. This hopefully, finally, means that Corbin's mid-card of evil have split, with McIntyre punching Baron to give Ricochet the win. After a weird sing-along entrance with the Usos, where they both just stood around awkwardly while their music stopped for a bit, they took on Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, who've just been superstar shake-up to Raw, because presumably WWE needed a tag team to lose. When will you end, draft? Oddly, Gallows and Anderson took the majority of the match, which doesn't make the Usos look particularly good, being dominated by a team that's been barely featured for the last year. And then to build on the Usos' very little momentum from winning, we got the next Raw tweak to their characters. They film dudes in showers now. Jimmy and Jay played a clip on the Titantron of the Revival's Dash Wilder shaving Scott Dawson's back. Man, the Usos are really taking the penitentiary gimmick to its darkest conclusion. Bobby Lashley was the guest on Miz TV next, which was to set up a match to happen between them, for Shane McMahon to turn up and cost Miz the win, because Shane is so good, he must feature in high-profile feuds across two different brands. The Omni-Shane. But the most interesting thing here is the absence of Bobby's hype man, Lio Rush. It's been reported by both the Wrestling Observer and Fightful over the last few days that Rush has considerable backstage heat in the company, with the latter writing Lio would be very lucky to be back on the main roster anytime soon, if ever. No Rush here could mean that he's done on Raw for a long time. The Viking Raiders, which is definitely what they've always been called, took on Lucha House Party next in a match to see who's got the worst name. Despite the Lucha guys jumping the Raiders before the match, just like how the Raiders did to them last week, Eric and Ivar destroyed all Tress members of the House Party in impressive fashion. Name backlash aside, WWE are booking the Raiders terrifically strong. As if one moment of bliss segment wasn't enough, here's an even worse one to announce the women's Money in the Bank participants. But just first, Alexa, are you a face or a heel here?
The transparent maple leaf section on Canadian banknotes is a diffraction grating. If you shine a laser through it, or look through it at a bright, Point Light. You'll see the notes.
It's not even
down.
remotely what she's a heel. I think she's a heel. In some woefully terrible acting, Bliss revealed Natalya, Dana Brooke, Naomi, and herself as the Women's Money in the Bank participants from Raw, which turned into Naomi beating Alexa because she didn't have her shoes on properly. It's Firefly Funhouse time! This week, the new Bray Wyatt was painting as a way to express his inner feelings. What have you painted there, Bray mate? Oh, it's your Wyatt family compound being burnt down by Randy Orton. Seems like you've totally gotten over all that then. Bray added the hand puppet Rambling Rabbit to the team, possibly so named because Bray's old promos were always criticized for being too rambly. Bray ended the segment by cheerily announcing the word of the day is sociopath. Please don't screw this up, WWE! I've seen a lot of people be quite positive on Becky Lynch's pull-apart brawl with Lacey Evans here, and it did show some fire, but I'm just not into this feud. And while Becky is great on the mic, her in-ring promo segments are starting to feel very repetitive. It's hard to not feel overexposed on WWE TV when you're on one brand every week, let alone two, as Becky has been since WrestleMania. The opposite is the case for Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, because I forgot they were the Raw Tag Team Champions again. They're really only transitional title holders, as the real direction of Raw's tag division is the Usos and Viking Raiders. Until then, though, we get to see Ryder get a fluke backslide pin on Scott Dawson. Reacting to Shane beating him up after his match earlier, Miz challenged McMahon to a match at Money in the Bank inside a steel cage, which Shane accepted in the most visually dramatic way possible in a tweet. Sami Zayn's promo skills are amazing. The way his physical movements get over his heel character, even his character motivation, that the crowd feel entitled to things like consistent storylines, empathetic characters, and engaging television, yeah, we're the worst, is good. But Sami has been coming out with this act for 4 weeks now with no storyline or payoff. This needs some substance fast, otherwise it's just Vince McMahon shouting at us through a proxy. Rey Mysterio took on Samoa Joe next in a rematch of their WrestleMania 35 squash encounter. Hey, WWE writing team, how are we gonna beat Joe but keep him looking strong? How about a surprise roll-up with Joe looking angry after? Great idea, Stan, because that hasn't been done at all every week for the last few months. It was even more ridiculous as Joe was practically under the ropes for the pin, meaning he could have easily reached up to break it. And the main event was the contract signing between AJ Styles and Seth Rollins, which was unfortunately very scripted and very boring. You see, AJ thinks Seth wants to be the next AJ, but Seth will never be the next AJ because AJ is the next AJ because there's only ever one AJ. But Seth says he never wanted to be the next AJ because he's Seth Rollins. Nobody talks like this! There was an interesting line where Styles teased doing unexpected things to get what you want, which I started fantasy booking as AJ turning heel with Gallows and Anderson now the Shield have been split up, but instead we just got a little brawl ending in a phenomenal forearm through a table. This was a very tedious episode. Nobody was harmed by the booking, but it was a real slog to get through, and apart from Ricochet, the Money in the Bank lineups are very uninspiring. This week's Raw is poor. Now over to Luke with the news.
Great review there, Ollie. And like Alexa Bliss, I'm gonna lose my shoes for this review. Be gone, shoe! Corey Graves may be across both Raw and SmackDown in a commentary role, but the former NXT wrestler may be looking to join the list of wrestlers asking for their release for pastures new. In a very cryptic tweet, Graves posted, "Might be time for a change of scenery," which will no doubt spark speculation that Corey could be on his way to All Elite Wrestling, even though AEW is set for a commentary team with Jim Ross, Alex Marvez, and Excalibur acting as a three-man booth. And it should also be noted that Corey Graves has a tendency to try and work fans to prove some sort of point. Last year, he started a Twitter beef with former Raw commentator Booker T over money disputes, which concluded when he and Booker T revealed on Heated Conversations that they had done this together to work fans and dirt sheets for reasons, I guess. So for now, let's just assume this is Corey Graves trying to work fans into rampant speculation. Corey Graves to AEW confirmed. Some folk who have asked for their release going by many rumours are The Revival. Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson are among a list of wrestlers in 2019 who have either asked for their release publicly or have reportedly asked behind closed doors or have just decided to leave the company once their contract ends. Sean Spears and Kenta both asked for their releases and were granted them, while The Revival, Sasha Banks, Luke Harper and the Kanellisai have all either asked for their release publicly or have done so so privately, but in any case were turned down. While Dean Ambrose, on the other hand, decided not to re-sign following the Royal Rumble. Dave Meltzer reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Luke Harper wasn't granted his release because they think he could be a big player for AEW, and claims that WWE have now added 6 months to Harper's contract that was set to expire in November because of time he had off when injured last year. And if they don't use him on TV, they could just keep adding that time to his contract the same way they did for Pac and Rey Mysterio when they both tried to leave. Meltzer adds that he thinks this was done to discourage wrestlers from publicly asking for their release if they're unhappy. Sasha Banks, who hasn't been on TV since losing the women's tag team titles at WrestleMania, is also reportedly at a stalemate with WWE over her contract. The Revival were one of the first names to be linked to All Elite Wrestling when the company was first rumored late last year, and it was reported in early 2019 that they had asked for their releases from WWE so they could go to AEW, but were turned down. This is reportedly the reason they were then quickly given the Raw Tag Team Championships in an effort to make them stay, a tactic WWE also reportedly employed with the Usos to encourage them to stay when rumors came up that they might also ask for their release. Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, who is often on the money with his backstage information, no pun intended, is now reporting that Dash and Dawson were both offered $500,000 per year for the next 5 years. To put that into perspective, that would be more than Braun Strowman reportedly earns. According to Fightful, the Revival have yet to agree to these contracts, but Dave Meltzer is reporting that they have actually turned the deals down. The Revival to AEW confirmed. And Jim Ross was recently on Busted Open Radio talking about how he believes WWE are concerned about the amount of money Tony Khan has, and that's why they're offering big money contracts to entice their wrestlers to stay. Ross told Bully Ray on the show that he's even heard that WWE recently offered a $500,000 contract to an undercard wrestler who isn't even featured on TV just to get them to stay. Ross doesn't reveal who the wrestler is, but said, "I'm sure there is concerned there. I asked about one guy in WWE who's an undercard guy, been there for a while, solid hand, could help the younger guys learn because he's at that age now, early 30s, but they say, well, he's not available. He just signed for $500,000. He's not even on television. $500K just to keep him off the streets." Unknown wrestler not to AEW confirmed. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to our pledge hammers on Patreon, some of which you can see scrolling their way into my stomach. Get your tickets to see WrestleTalk live 1 week from today when we do a podcast recording in London, and watch Ollie Davis give his in-depth and spoilery thoughts on Avengers Endgame by clicking the video over there. I've been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.